Here's the worked out solutions for the rational numbers study guide. Let's start by reading the instructions. Show your work for each problem. Write your answer in simplest form. Let's start with add or subtract, level 1. So we have 6/15 plus 3/5. So whenever we're adding or subtracting fractions, we want to have a common denominator. In this case, our common denominator will be 15. So we want to multiply the second fraction by 3 each, because both the 6 over 15 and 9 over 15 will now have the same denominator. So we now have 6/15 plus 3 times 3 is 9. 5 times 3 is 15. So 6/15 plus 9/15 is going to give us 15/15, which can be simplified to 1 whole. Level 2, -11/12 minus -3/4. So the first thing we're going to do is simplify the middle. We have -11/12 minus negative. If the signs are the same, then it's a positive, plus 3/4. In our last problem, our common denominator was 15. Now our common denominator is going to be 12. So we're going to multiply our second fraction by 3 to get a denominator of 12. So now we have -11/12 plus 3 times 3 is 9, 4 times 3 is 12. So -11/12 plus 9/12. We have 11 negatives and 9 positives. Therefore, our final answer is going to be 2 negatives left over 12. But it's not simplified yet, so we're going to divide both our numerator and denominator by 2. And our final solution will be -2 divided by 2 is -1, and 12 divided by 2 is 6. So -1/6. For our last problem, we have 10⁴ minus -18.5. So we have two different forms of rational numbers. We'll try to make them look the same. Let's say we want to change them into fractions. So circle the middle and rewrite the problem. 10⁴ minus negative becomes a positive, and 18⁵ is the same thing as 18 1/2. So remember, whenever we are adding mixed numbers, we can either change both the numbers into improper fractions, or we can try to find a common denominator between the two. In this case, I'm going to change them into improper fractions. So we have 10 times 5 plus 4. 10 times 5 is 50, plus 4 is 54 over 5. And 18 times 2 is 36, plus 1 is 37. So 37 over 2. We don't have the common denominator between 5 and 2 at the moment, but we can by multiplying the first fraction by 2 to get a denominator of 10, and the second fraction by 5 to also get a denominator of 10. So 2 times 54 is going to give us 108 over 10. And then 37 times 5 is going to give us 185 over 10. And now we can try to add the two fractions together because they have the same denominator. 108 plus 185 is going to give us 293 over 10. And that's the same thing as 29 3/10. And we can't simplify 3/10 any further. 10 goes into 293 29 times. Okay, on to multiplying or dividing. So, whenever we're multiplying or dividing fractions, you just multiply from left to right. So we have 3 times 4 divided by 2 times 9. And 3 times 4 is going to give us 12, and 2 times 9 is going to give us 18. Now we want to simplify that. 12 and 18, they both can be divisible by 6. 12 divided by 6 is equal to 2, and 18 divided by 6 equals to 3. So our final solution is 2/3. For level 2, we now have a division problem. And remember, whenever we are dividing fractions, we keep the first fraction, we switch the sign, and we flip the second fraction. So we have negative 10 over 4, and we switch the sign from division to multiplication, and we flip the second fraction to become 9 over 5. Now we can multiply the two fractions. So we have negative 10 times 9 over 4 times 5. And that's going to give us negative 90 over 20. And you can fit 20 into 90 4 times with a remainder of 10. So negative, they have different signs, negative 90, positive 20. So now what we can do is say we're going to get a final sign that is negative because the signs are different. And we have 4 and we have 10 over 20. Because 20 times 4 is going to give us 80, and then add 10 more is 90. And 10 over 20 is just simply negative 4.5, because 10 is half of 20. So that's our final answer, negative 4.5. Now for our next problem, we have 6 3/4 divided by negative 30%. In the last problem, we changed it into fractions. Let's try changing them into decimals this time. So 3/4 is the same thing as 3/4. When you think of money, 3/4 is 75 cents. So we have 6.75, and we're going to divide it by negative 30%. And percent, you just move the decimal over twice, and you get negative 0.3. Okay, so you have 6.75 divided by negative 0.3. Remember, there's more than one way of doing this. You can change these into percents. You can also change these into fractions. So 6.75 divided by negative 0.3. We can move the decimal over once for both of them. So we have 67.5 divided by 3. So negative 3 and 67.5. So 3 goes into 6 twice, and then we bring down the 7. 3 goes into 7 twice, and then we bring down the 5, and we carry up the decimal. 3 goes into 15 5 times. So our answer is going to be negative 22.5, because the signs are different. Positive 6.75 and negative 0.3. So negative 22.5 is our final solution. Okay, now we're on to word problems. So in this level 1 problem, it says a student bought 1 1/5 pounds of chocolates at the candy store. She also received 0.5 pounds of gummies as a gift. How many pounds of candy does she have in total? So we're talking about candy in total. That means we're talking about adding. So we have 1 1/5, and we're going to add 0.5. Well, last time we did a problem as a decimal. Now we're going to try doing it as a fraction. So 1 1/5 plus 1/2. We need to find the common denominator. In this case, the common denominator will be 10. So 1 times 5, and our denominator is 2 times 5. And then for this one, 5 times 2, and then 1 times 2. So now our new problem is going to be 1 2/10 plus 1 times 5 is 5, and 2 times 5 is 10. So 1 2/10 plus 5/10 gives us 1 7/10. So how many pounds of candy does she have in total? 1 7/10 pounds of candy. Okay, level 2. An adult spent $45 shopping, and 3/5 of that money was spent on groceries. How much was spent on groceries? So whenever we're talking about of, we can think of meaning as multiplication. So $45 multiplied by 3/5. Remember, to write 45 as a fraction, we write 45 over 1, because 45 is a whole. So 45 times 5, times 3 I mean, and then 1 times 5. So 45 times 3 is going to give us 135, and 1 times 5 is going to give us 5. 135 divided by 5, so 5 doesn't go into 1, but it does go into 13 2 times. Then we have a remainder of 3, and then 5 goes into 35 7 times. So what we have now is $27 was spent on groceries. So now we're going to move on to our last problem. At the start of a movie, a family had one whole bucket of popcorn. During the movie, the mother ate 1/5 of that bucket, the father ate 25%, and the child ate the rest. So how much popcorn was left for the child to eat? So we have one whole, and we're going to subtract 1/5, which represents the mother's portion that she ate. And then we're also going to subtract 25%, which is the father's portion. And the rest is the child. Okay, so when we're eating popcorn, that means our popcorn is getting smaller and smaller, our bucket. So whenever we are getting smaller, that means we're subtracting in this case. Last time we did it as a fraction, we've done it as decimals. Let's try this one as a percentage. So we know one whole is 100%, but how do we represent 1/5 as a percentage? Well, 5 goes into 100 20 times, and that means we multiply the numerator by 20 also. So 1/5 means the same thing as 20%. So 100% minus 1/5, which is 20%, minus 25%, which is the father's portion. 100 minus 20 is going to give us 80, and 80 minus 25 is going to give us 55%. So how much popcorn was left for the child to eat? 55% was left for the child. Okay? Now that we are done with, let's try that again. 55% is left for the child. Okay, now that we're done with the front page, we're going to go to the back page. So the back page is converting between rational numbers. Show your work for each conversion. Write your answer in simplest form. Okay, so we've done this in the past in our quizzes. We have 26%. To change that to a decimal, we just move over the decimal, which is on the far right, 2 times to the left, and we're left with 0.26. If we want to write 0.26 as a fraction, we can read the place value. This is 26, and this is the tenths place, and this is the hundredths place. So we're going to write 26 over 100. But remember, it says in the instructions, show your work for each conversion. Write your answer in simplest form. So how can we simplify 26 and 100? Well, both of these numbers are divisible by 2 because they are even numbers. Even numbers are 0, 2, 4, 6, 8, and so forth. So 26 divided by 2 is going to give us 13, and 100 divided by 2 is going to give us 50. So our fraction in the simplest form is 13/50. For the second problem, we have -1/8. Okay, if we want to change a fraction to a decimal, what we can do is divide the two, because a fraction means division. So 1 divided by 8. Whatever number you say first goes inside the division house, and whatever number you say second goes outside the division house. So 8 does not go into 1, but it does go into 10. So add a decimal and another decimal above it. So 8 goes in 10 one time. 1 times 8 is 8. Subtract 10 and 8, and you get 2. Bring down another 0. 8 goes into 20 twice. 2 times 8 is 16. Subtract and you get 4. Bring down another 0, and we get 40. 8 goes into 40 5 times. 5 times 8 is 40, and we're left with no remainder. So our answer is 0.125. And as a percent, what we can do with this decimal is move it over 2 times to the right, and we are left with 12.5%. Don't forget that our answers should be negative because our original fraction is -1/8. So negative 12.5% and negative 0.125 are our percent and decimal representations. Okay, on to our next problem. We have -2.4, and we need to convert it into a percent. So let's move our decimal over twice. And if we move it over twice, we are going to get -240%. And then for our fraction, we just need to read our number. So -2.4, you can read that in terms of place values. negative 2 wholes and 4 tenths. So negative 2 wholes and 4 tenths. But we can simplify 4 tenths by dividing numerator and denominator by 2, and we get negative 2 and 2 fifths. And this is the worked out answer key for the study guide. Good luck on your unit test.